Okay, so think about this. What if your car isn't just getting you from A to B? What if it's actually like this silent passenger, always there, gathering tons of information about you every single drive? Today, we're doing a deep dive into that, understanding the sensitive personal info your vehicle collects, the risks. Our mission here really is to unpack it all for you. What data are we talking about? How much? Who's collecting it? And what does it actually mean for your privacy? I want to give you that shortcut, get you well informed, maybe share some surprising facts, connect some dots you hadn't thought about.
Yeah, and it's so important to get your head around this because, understanding this data collection by our cars, it's crucial. We really need to think about protecting our personal information, especially now, right? Everything's connected. Our cars are basically becoming like rolling data centers.
Right. So let's get specific. This need to understand what cars collect. Why should someone listening right now really personally care? What's the direct hit?
That's the key question, isn't it? It's not some abstract thing. It's about what your car knows about you. And the amount of data, it's just huge. Our sources say modern cars, they can pump out up to 25 gigabytes of data per hour.
25 gigabytes?
Oh.
An hour. Wow, that's a lot. But what kind of data is that exactly? Is it just like how fast I'm going?
Oh, it goes way beyond just speed. Yes, travel and driving data is big. That includes your routes, obviously speed, direction, even, how you drive, your driving behavior, like how do you hit the brakes or accelerate. But then, yeah, it gets much more personal.
And this is where it gets, well, really interesting, maybe a bit concerning. Our sources talk about biometric data, like facial recognition scans, and personal stuff like contacts, maybe social media activity.
Exactly.
And then there's the car itself, right? Its status, maintenance stuff, how the system's running. But here's the part that really made me pause. The sources mention truly sensitive info, like health information, text messages, even, religious beliefs. How? How on earth is a car collecting that? Right. That seems, way over the line.
I know. The sources explain it's often indirect, so the car itself isn't asking your religion, obviously, but it could be inferred, maybe collected through apps you connect to the car system, or synced contacts, maybe navigation history showing visits to certain places of worship, that kind of thing. It builds up this surprisingly detailed picture of your life.
That really changes the whole what happens in the car stays in the car idea, doesn't it? So how is the car actually collecting and sending all this stuff out? What's the tech?
Good question. It's mostly down to a few key technologies working together. You've got GPS, of course, for tracking location. Then there's telematics. That's the system that wirelessly sends the data back to the manufacturer or other parties. And onboard diagnostics, OBD, which constantly monitor the vehicle's health, its systems. These things are all integrated, basically, to just continuously collect and transmit huge amounts of tracking data from your car.
Okay, let's maybe make this more concrete. Can we talk about specific car makers? What do the sources say about, say, Toyota or Honda or Ford? What are they grabbing?
Yeah, the sources give some clear examples. Toyota, for instance.
Yeah.
They collect driving behavior, preferences inside the car, and might even scan the driver's face for recognition.
Facial scans, okay.
Honda gathers vehicle info, trip logs, airbag status, driver behavior stuff. Ford looks at vehicle data, driving characteristics, travel direction, and interestingly, voice recognition data.
Voice data too. And
Chevrolet, yeah. Identifiers, vehicle information, location, route history, speed, even specific things like braking events. And then Jeep and Ram, that's Stellantis, now they collect personal info, driving data, car status, and potentially face and fingerprint data for some services.
Wow. Okay, so this isn't just like one or two companies doing this. It sounds systemic, like industry-wide.
Exactly. It really shows it's a widespread practice. Automakers are clearly seeing data collection as, a core part of how they operate now.
And you mentioned something earlier that seems really important here, this lack of awareness. Our sources highlight that. Many owners just, they have no idea how much data is being collected or even what kind of data. It's all happening kind of silently.
It's funny, isn't it? Because the manufacturers, they do have privacy statements, they have terms of service, connected car policies. They technically explain this stuff. So the information is out there, in theory. Why do you think awareness is still so low?
Oh, I think it's overwhelming, right? Miles of fine print. It's like those agree to terms boxes online, we all just click. Nobody can reasonably read and understand all of that. It's just too much. And that probably leads into the next problem, opting out. Is that even easy?
Well, that's a tricky part. Some makers do offer ways to turn off data transmission or opt out of certain things. You might find it in a privacy hub or have to call customer service. But yeah, the sources say it can be really complicated. Some manufacturers seem to make it deliberately difficult to, say, deactivate the car's connectivity without getting support involved.
And then where does this data even go? Does it just stay with the car company?
Not necessarily, and this brings up another major concern, the data broker industry. Our sources point out that some of this collected vehicle data, it's actually sold, actively sold to third parties.
So my driving habits, where I go often, that could be packaged up and sold.
Potentially, yes. Think about acceleration, braking, common routes. This information can be valuable to insurers, marketers, maybe even urban planners. And it often happens in ways that are pretty opaque to the average car owner. You might never know.
So with all this data flying around, being sold, what about legal protections, especially here in the U.S.? What do the sources say?
Well, that's a big finding. There's a real lack of a single comprehensive national data privacy law in the U.S. that specifically covers all this vehicle data, despite the massive amounts we've been talking about.
So no federal law covering everything. It's more like a patchwork.
Exactly that, a patchwork. It's important to say, though, that about 13 states have passed their own laws. They're trying to provide stronger data privacy protections for their residents. And also remember, many car brands are global, so they do have to comply with international rules, like the GDPR over in Europe.
Ah,
It sets a much higher bar for consent and data handling.
okay, state laws, international laws. But what about just, consumer power? Are manufacturers giving us more tools to manage this?
Yes, there is some movement there. The good news is that manufacturers are starting to work on better privacy tools, ways for users to actually see and manage their personal data. It's partly because of regulation, sure, but also I think growing consumer pressure. People are starting to ask more questions. And what's interesting here is a real commitment to privacy. That could actually be a selling point for car companies now, especially in an industry where, let's be honest, trust around data use has been shaky.
Still, our sources emphasize that even though you technically own some data, like your infotainment settings or subscription info, actually managing and controlling all the data the car collects, that's still a huge practical challenge for most people.
Definitely. So looking ahead, what do the sources recommend? How do we fix this, or at least improve it? A big one is education, just getting the word out more about vehicle data collection, and needing a broader conversation, really, getting consumers, regulators, automakers, tech companies, everyone talking together to drive some real change.
And what about how the cars themselves are designed? This idea of privacy by design comes up. Basically, car makers should build privacy in from the start, like design systems to automatically de-identify data where possible, and make opting out of tracking simple and clear, not buried in some menu. It shouldn't be an afterthought.
Absolutely. And connecting that to the bigger picture, regulatory compliance is key. Automakers really need to stay on top of existing privacy rules and anticipate new ones. It's not just about avoiding fines. It's fundamental to building and keeping that consumer trust we talked about.
Right. And for you, listening right now, what it means is pushing for those fine-grained controls. You should be able to easily review and grant permissions for data access in your car, just like you do for apps on your phone.
Right.
It needs to be intuitive, clear, not some kind of maze. So just to recap this deep dive, we've really dug into the surprising amount and type of data your car is likely collecting, way beyond just speed and location, into some really sensitive personal stuff. We looked at who's doing it, basically the whole industry, the current privacy situation, the lack of awareness, the legal gaps.
And yeah, while the challenges are significant, like not having that strong national privacy law in the US, there are signs of progress. There's definitely a growing push towards giving consumers more control, more transparency. The conversation is definitely shifting, which is positive.
So here's a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on. If your car, this thing you use every day, is quietly gathering so much unseen data about your movements, your habits, maybe even your personal life, what does that suggest about all the other smart devices around you? Your phone, your watch, your smart speaker at home? How much of your total digital footprint is being silently created by the technology you'd use, often without even thinking twice about it?